Hi, and welcome to a Sober Girls podcast. My name is Sherry, and I am your host. Every Wednesday, we get together and we talk about our journey in sobriety, what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. I've been sober for over 10 years now, and I realized that one of the biggest mistakes I ever made was just putting the plug in the jug and not drinking. I never took care of my emotional sobriety, did my step work, or was fully involved in the program until it was almost too late. This is my story, my experience, strength, and hope, and what life is like for me on a daily basis as a recovering alcoholic and addict. I am so glad that you are with me, and now let's get into it. All right, this is Sherry with a Sober Girls podcast, and this morning we are speaking with, I apologize, can you say your name, please?
Sure, Honesty Liller.
Okay, I figured I wanted to make sure I didn't screw up his name or anything like that. So,
Oh,
um,
you're fine. I get it all the time.
do you really?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
It's
hilarious.
Liler or Miller, even though it has an L. Yeah, I'm
See?
good.
Yes,
Yeah.
I I get it. So Honesty is going to tell us her story today, kind of what she does. This is really an open platform, but I'm really excited because a Sober Girls podcast, we are both actually in Richmond, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
actually really kind of cool for me because even though people all over the world listen to us, you and I are really close to each other. So this is something that I really am going to be interested in because I've heard of the place that you went through for recovery. It's a huge, huge place in Virginia, for those of us in recovery. So why don't you go ahead and start your story and we'll just listen.
Sure. Well, the shorter version, I started using drugs and alcohol when I was 12 years old. I had a little bit of a dysfunctional household growing up, and I had a lot of freedom. So I really just wanted to fit in. I was drinking and smoking weed and just like this hippie chick. I was going to like fish concerts and all this stuff that I couldn't imagine my kids going to now because they're now 13 and 21. But anyway, I had a lot of low self-esteem. I had a lot of body image challenges as a woman, as a girl. And I just wanted to be a part of and hang out with people that were doing drugs and drinking alcohol. That progressed till age about 15. I started doing other drugs like smoking crack and doing cocaine. And it was just all the people I ended up hanging out with, their so-called friends. Yeah, it was my story is pretty wild. I mean, it's like a lot of people's, but it's pretty wild. And that just didn't work out for me very long. I mean, I was still in school. I graduated high school when I was 16, so a year early, so I could have a job full time to support my drug habit because I didn't have a very good my family was not wealthy by any means, so I had to support my own drug habit instead of asking them for money. So I worked full time at age 16 and really just kind of went with the flow, just, doing drugs, passing drug tests. I don't know how, fake urine a lot. And then when I was 17 is when I found heroin. And that's when really my life went down the river for a while. So, I mean, I was still drinking off and on to try to like stay off of other drugs. It just didn't work out for me because as soon as I used that first time using heroin, my opiate receptors went off in my brain. And
Ah,
what that means for us that are opiate users is it's not even just a party, it's like a numbing feeling. I didn't have to like
yes.
be like super responsible. All my body images, challenges, and like depression and anxiety, and just like not liking myself as a human, like went away because when
Yeah.
you do opiates and in most drugs, even alcohol, you become numb. And I fell in love with it. I remember the first day I used it on my mom's front porch, and I swore I never would use it because I'd already had a friend that overdosed and died. Um, then I don't know, a couple months later, I ended up overdosing and getting brought back to life with the life-saving drug called Narcan, naloxone. It's
Yeah.
a opiate reversal drug. So when I was 17, I overdosed. My family found out I was on drugs. So I hit it very well for 5 years with the name.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, with a
That's
name like
impressive.
Honesty, I was the biggest liar ever. Even as a little girl, before I even started using drugs, I remember stealing and doing all this stuff. I don't know. I don't know. God had a plan for me and where I am now, but doing heroin every day, I mean, you get addicted to it. I got addicted early, and after I overdosed, I went to my first 12-step meeting. I was 17 and everybody in that meeting was like 100. So I just couldn't pick up what they were putting down. It just wasn't my jam. And I wasn't willing to get rid of the people that I was hanging out with. These were my so-called friends, and so I think I stayed off it for about a week or so, and then I started using it again and using other drugs. I mean, for 9 years, I used heroin and other opiates. I definitely tried the just drinking method, detox, whatever. But again, nothing worked for me. Once I put any type of substance in my body, I automatically wanted heroin. I automatically wanted opiates because it wasn't enough for me. Eventually, whether it was a week, a day. So 9 years was my opiate addiction, and it was bad. I mean, it was really bad. I did everything to my mind, body, and soul that was negative. I harmed everyone around me that loved me. I harmed society. I committed a lot of felonies, a lot of crimes. I believe in guardian angels, and I believe in a higher power. And I never got arrested or anything like that. So that's not part of my story. I should be in prison probably forever for the things I did do to get drugs.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And like when you're dope sick, you do whatever you have to do as a woman, as a human, whatever.
Yep.
So I did a lot of things. And then through those 9 years, I got pregnant with my daughter. I was 21 years old when I had my daughter, so I was still a baby, basically. But I had already lived so many lives. I had to grow up pretty quickly in my household because of my household situation. So 21-year-old thought she knew everything, addicted to heroin, got pregnant, used my whole pregnancy, and then my daughter was born and withdrawal from heroin as well. Yeah, so the shame that comes with that is books and books and books I can write on just shame and guilt and the stuff that I went through as a mom, as a woman, as a human, because of the things that it did, to her body, and just to her soul, and after I had her, the state came in, they mandated me to a methadone program. So I stayed on that for 2 years. I used every other drug because I brought in fake urine for 2 years. So they wouldn't take my daughter, even though I couldn't be a mom to her because I was still putting her in danger every day. I was still doing drugs. I was putting her in the car, doing all of those things. And then I graduated that program. Social services, I guess, went away. I never saw him after I delivered her, so I don't really know what happened with that. But I used for 3 more years. And when she was 4, it was like when my family were like, try to do interventions on me. I've done Jesus, I've done baptism, I've done 12-step, I've done psychiatry. Yeah, I really thought
funny.
Yeah, I thought Jesus would help me and take the water and I would never use heroin again. And not knocking Jesus or anything, but it did not work for me. Yeah.
No,
We love
that's
Jesus.
totally fine.
Yeah. I don't know. And then I went away to treatment. So I went away to this 28-day program. I was with my daughter's father for about 6 years before that. It was pretty miserable. I mean, we were just using buddies. We were partners in crime, I think there was some love there, but we were so young. He was 17 and I was 19 when we met. And I went away to this treatment. It was a couple hours away, and I finally woke up after 14 years. That at that point was 13 years of using, and I liked it. It was my first time, basically I detox meds and cigarettes, but my first time drug free in over 13 years. And, I started, my mind slowly started, coming barely together. And I left her father over a payphone. I just said, I can't do this anymore. We've been together 6 years. We made a child. My daughter was with my mom. I could not take care of her. I just left her. And, I wanted to change, but I didn't know. We learned about recovery in this place and 12 step and stuff like that. But like, I immediately walked outside and I saw a cute boy playing basketball and I fell in lust, So after the 6 years and cheating and all that drama that comes with a relationship, I left him and treatment. And then I walked outside, and I don't say love, I say lust, because that's all it was for real. And then after we both completed the 28 days, I came home. I had my car, my kid, my job, and my apartment waiting for me. I'm not a big believer on 28 days and then here's your life back. I don't believe, that's not my professional or personal philosophy.
Yep.
For me, I went to 12-step meetings, and then he ended up moving in with me after like 2 months, of dating. It was a mess. I was selfish and self-centered, but also I wanted to please him because of um all of my low self-esteem and all the stuff I've done to myself as a woman and as a mom, and I just wanted someone there with me.
And don't you feel like too that you want to feel like you've got it together at this point, and so you need to be with him to prove that you're okay, to prove that you can make something work. Like,
right.
that's how I feel like I'm sober now. I can do this. I can make this relationship work. But in reality, that soon with another addict who's just coming out, like, you're right, it's really hard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a mess. I just wanted someone to love me. I just wanted to have sex with someone different. Like, I just wanted someone. I thought I was cute, because I finally stopped doing drugs, even though we think we're cute when we're on drugs and we are not.
Oh my God, no.
And yeah, I just wanted that love, because I couldn't love myself. So I wanted someone else to love me. In early recovery, it's hard to love yourself. And ultimately we both started using. So we used for about a year together, after like a couple months of going to meetings and stuff. And it was the worst year. It was the worst year of all of my using. That last year was pretty bad. I mean, the stuff that I did to myself, my daughter, my family, and just everyone, panhandling, all the stuff that you have to do to get money, because you're so addicted to heroin. It was pretty rough. It was rough. It's still like certain places I drive by after 15 years in recovery, it's still like triggering. Not that I want to go use. I'm like, damn, I did that in that parking lot. You know what I mean?
The clarity after the brain fog,
right.
When the clarity hits you and you're driving by and you're like, oh my God.
I know. And I'm not even gonna say, yeah. I was like, I did $40 for what in there? It was a mess. I was a different person. I'm a different human today than I was then.
Was your addiction tenfold at that point? Like, had you seen the progression from
oh God, yeah. I was dope sick. I was shooting heroin. I was not eating. I mean, all of that stuff we do. I didn't have any. When we cleaned up my apartment, when I finally found McShin, there was no food. There was just the hot cocoa mix with marshmallows. I couldn't feed my daughter. I left her again with my mom. I couldn't see her because I was always dope sick. It was a mess. I was not a good human at all. And I had, addiction. So, it wasn't necessarily my fault. I was addicted to heroin, and that's all that was important to me, because when you're dope sick, I'm not a good dope sicker either. I will hit you, punch you, rob you, whatever I have to do to be well. So then I found the McShin Foundation. So I found McShin. My mom did. My stepmom knows John Shinholzer, one of the co-founders.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, back in I was 26 years old in 2007. I walked through these doors. This is my office now, but I walked through the McShin Foundation. What that is a peer-led recovery community organization. I honestly just wanted detox meds. I did not want to stay here. I wanted medication so I can not be dope sick. I was going to go home. And me and Adam, which is now my husband, the boy I met in treatment.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So it's a whole. I wrote a book, so I have a book too that people can buy and read it too.
Oh, we are promoting that because
it's funny. It's traumatic, but it's funny too. So yeah, McShin saved my life. I planned to stay here for a week. I lived in a female recovery house. It was only a few women at the time. Back then, in 15 years, there was not a lot of women staying in recovery. Even in like the 12-step community adopted me because there was no female staff here. It was just 3 men that worked here. We had 3 recovery houses at the time, and then a couple offices down in the basement of Hatcher Church. Well, I ended up living here for 5 months. I lived in the female house for 5 months. I got my daughter back. My older sister let me live with her until I had a year in recovery. I did leave the boy I met in treatment when I came to McShin for like 4 months. I just focused on recovery, focused on building a network of women, doing everything the opposite I did for 14 years, you know. And it worked, you know, slowly. You had to go day by day and you had to like, you know, live, you know, drug and alcohol free every single day. And I wasn't good at that. Like I complained a lot. I wanted everything when I wanted it. I had to crawl out of a very dark black hole very slowly, you know, and McShin helped me do that. And the women in recovery that are still my friends today helped me do that. And I started working here when I was 5 months in recovery. So when I moved out of the female recovery house, John hired me just to kind of help with the women and do some administrative stuff. I had so many jobs while I was using. So I picked up little traits kind of here and there. And
Right.
yeah, and just like it grew into the beautiful thing that it is now. And you know, after I got my year in recovery and I did service work, I did everything. You know, I took probably 92% of every suggestion given to me by another woman, you know, one of my predecessors and someone that had longevity of recovery because I didn't want to die, number one. And once
Yes.
I got Destiny back, my daughter, I really wanted to try to be a mom because I didn't know how to be one, especially without drugs. And you know, I just slowly learned a ton of things, learned how to be a recovery advocate, learned how to be a leader, you know, in this field. And I've done some education and, you know, self-taught a lot of this. Like I've worked my ass off for my position that I'm in life today.
Yep.
And the boy that I met in treatment, we ended up getting back together after I left McShin and we got married. We had our son before we got married. So our son is a recovery baby. And,
Oh.
you know, yeah, I mean, it took me years to like really learn how to love myself. You know, and that is still a work in progress, but it's 10 zillion times better than it was. As well as like learning how to like show others how to love themselves. So
Yes.
McShin now has 15 recovery houses. We have three jail programs, family programming. We're all in recovery that work here. And about 85 to 90% of our staff have lived in our program. So we've built we've built an organization basically from ground up. And it's been a beautiful but hard process for sure.
Yes.
This is an emotional career that I have. But yeah, I mean, recovery, I keep it on the front burner no matter what. Like, I know, especially now with the fentanyl, like, they don't have really old fashioned heroin anymore. It's fentanyls and
Oh,
everything. So people are just dying and dying. And you know, it's my role as the CEO of this organization and female leader of the organization to show others behind me how to do it too, you know, and
yep.
we call ourselves hope dealers like yourself, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
we just kind of show, you know, the community at large because we do a ton of stuff nationally. McShin is well known nationally. We are the only accredited recovery community organization in the state of Virginia.
That's
So we got a lot. I mean, it's been a lot of hard work, but we do a lot of cool stuff for the community and nationally as well. We help other states open RCOs and open jail programs, which is really cool and been beautiful to see all these years. My daughter is now 21. She is in nursing school and works at a local hospital. She has no long-term effects from my heroin use. Our relationship is beautiful and amazing and open and just like stuff I never dreamed of. You know, I never imagined my life getting the way it is today. And our
mm-hmm.
son is 13. He's never had to see me use a drug or alcohol. He's in 3 different sports, you know, and my husband's in long-term recovery as well. So we're doing great. I mean, life, you know, goes on every single day, but I think us in recovery have a couple extra tools on how to get through life because we've had such a hard life before we got into recovery, and
Yep.
we're taught so much cool shit about how to cope with life and
Yeah.
how to cope with COVID and how to cope with people with horrible attitudes, like, how to work through all of that and continually working on our souls.
Absolutely.
So
I
that's
think
kind of my story.
one
Yeah.
of the bigger things is too, is I know for me, is, whenever somebody gets like, even my parents or my relatives, people close to me, if they decide to get shitty with me, I'll just be like, they don't have the program. Do you find yourself doing that?
Yeah, I did. I did really that a long time. Like I used to do that for years. Like, gosh, they need a worker. But in reality, it's like, how do I handle the situation?
Exactly. Now it's on me because
Yeah,
they don't have the program. So it's on me to be able to handle the situation of how they're behaving. I have to react accordingly, knowing how I would based on my program.
yeah. Yeah, and I think life humans are going to be humans no matter what,
Yep.
and I'm not a perfect one by any means, but I definitely know when I'm wrong. I can feel when I'm wrong. I
Yep.
can admit when I'm wrong. But also like how to do well in the world, and be successful. And that's not a dollar sign to me. That's really being a female leader in this role. In the
Yes.
position that I'm in to help other leaders, specifically the female leader. And in my book, you'll learn it's called Scattered Pink, but it's best selling on Amazon. I just published it this past February, so it's been almost a year, to be
Almost a
honest.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride actually. I don't know. I wanted to do it. I manifested it. I did it. It took me 10 months to write. So if I can do it, you can do it too, listeners. And I self hybrid published with KWE Publishing, and it's just I hustle. I try to get it in bookstores. I can't afford a big huge publisher, so it's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all the places online, and it's at Chop Suey Books in Carytown. They were awesome and let me put it
Oh,
in there.
cool.
Yeah. So in the book, it just kind of teaches you some things about, I mean, it's my story, but like how you can overcome so many different things in your life as a woman, or someone in recovery or leader or whatever as well. And that's really the internal self-love. I'm a big believer on self-healing and like working on myself. My huge pathway now is more of like exercise and holistic stuff and writing and journaling and reading, and a lot less 12 step. I don't really do much of the 12 step at all. So my recovery's just evolve, and I'm walking in my purpose on a day-to-day basis. A lot, life is just too short not to, and try to give back to your community and the people that you love.
Absolutely. I'm actually really curious. And I told you in messages and on Instagram, like you have such a unique position, and probably someone in recovery that I've met that has created their recovery outside of while you did the 12 steps. Now you're into a different type of recovery. And I think that's something that we need to talk about overall. Um, and we have to realize that 12 steps, while the foundation, they don't always work for everybody for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
People, younger people, especially in this generation, I'm finding at 42 years old, they love the spiritual, holistic exercise, eating right, finding those things that not only that make you feel good spiritually, but physically, detoxing your body, detoxing your soul. And I think that's awesome that you do that because I think it gives you a different perspective and a different way to help people. I'm huge on exercise and eating correctly and feeding your soul, but we don't talk about that in AA. We don't talk about that in our 12 step programs at all, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I'm not, 12 steps saved my life and I would not be here without it. And I do a little bit of step work, but not much. I don't go to me unless one of my friends celebrates or something, and I think the reality of it, especially now, like seeing all the younger people get into recovery, they've opened my eyes because I used to be a hardcore 12 step for
Yep.
years, and all the sayings and stuff. And I don't rock those, a lot of the ones like, it's, you gotta be able to receive the love from everywhere, right? No
Yes.
matter what, the humans that we serve, not all go to 12. Like they do holistic or dharma or faith-based or abstinence, or MAT. So it's just been a different world for like past 5 years or so. And it's like you got to be open-minded to what that human is. People are dying, the rates are ridiculous. So it's like we have to be more open-minded to like that person's soul and how they want to heal. And the soul searching that I have found, whether it's traveling or doing my day-to-day routine that I do, I mean, I'm telling you, like, and again, I'm not perfect and I never will claim to be, but it's a damn good life to be able to like write about your shit,
Yes.
write about your
Yes.
stuff and not feel like shame. I feel like that sometimes is in that community, especially like if people are in AP or in different, sexual, situations. And, it's really important to be able to kind of sit back and talk to a human to human. And I'm really big on that and see what works for them.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, all of it helps me. I do a little bit of all of it, I guess. I'm not one pro. I just kind of do a little bit what works for me. And
Right.
my life is awesome. And I feel good about myself inside and out. And, I feel stronger as a woman physically and mentally. And, that's what works for me. Yeah. I'm obsessed with my Peloton right now. I'm going through that.
Yes, me too.
For like a year, but I love the apps. I do the shadow boxing. I did strength training this morning. I do core. I've done my first bar class because the app, you can do they got meditation,
Everything,
walking, running. I run, I do so it's like, it's well worth the $44 or whatever a month than a gym membership to me. So
it's
my
so
mental health.
awesome.
Yeah.
And the meditation is great too. The yoga, like, yes, I am 110% there with you. I do have a question for you. Actually, outside of, I am also a CEO. I run a nonprofit for baseball, so not even related to recovery, but how important is it for you as a female in the recovery world, working with all these people that you do, teaching women boundaries, teaching women, like, it took me a long time. I'm in almost 13 years of recovery, and I think I finally have started implementing boundaries probably like 6 to 9 months ago because I was still people pleasing. So how hard is it as a female CEO and then working with women in recovery to teach boundaries?
Okay, so people ask me a lot about balance, and I used to do PowerPoints. I used to do presentations on balance and boundaries and everything. I don't believe in a perfect balance anymore. This is just my opinion and how I live my life. I feel like you should give your all to whatever you're doing at the moment, and you need to be able to break it down and what's the most important to you. So if it's our son's in sports too. So if I really wanted to go to Willie Nelson's 90-year celebration, it's his birthday. So like a boundary for me is I really want to go do this, but my son has a baseball tournament out of town. My son's more important to me than going to a kick-ass concert. So it's like, it's just those things. But like if something comes up and my son does have something and like a woman that really needs me, it just all depends on the situation. And the biggest thing about boundaries I've learned through all these years is not to beat yourself up over them. So if you feel like someone in your life is toxic, negative, you break that shit down. Like I cuss a lot too. You break that down. Okay. You break it down on what that really means. Like I try to unpack my feelings, and I was never taught feelings or anything as a child and an adult, and everything was smushed with drugs. But as I've become mature and wiser and an adult, it's like you got to unpack those feelings. So you got to unpack what this person or this thing, if it's social media, if it's a specific person or institution or whatever, you need to cut it out of your life to the best of your ability. So I've gone through social media phases where I'm off completely. I just did that last year for a little bit. It was just like toxic and so fake.
It was so bad.
Yeah, it's like, I know what these people are doing for fact. And it's like, woo, look at me. It's just, So anyway, but that's not my shit to carry,
Nope,
So
it's not.
I'm pretty good at boundaries, saying no now. It took me a long time. I'm 15 years in. So the past couple years I've gotten really good, but this year really, really, really good at it. So my suggestion is really, forgiving yourself for setting that bound. Like, don't beat yourself up for setting whatever it is, whether it's your child's event because you have to work. I have to work and my family knows I have to.
Yes.
My kids have always been the philosophy is McShin's motto, I'm healing families, saving lives. So you're not necessarily going to get the Abercrombie and Fitch and whatever back in the day, so like I set boundaries pretty clear today, and I say I'm going to do, I just did it yesterday with somebody, I forgot, I'm disengaging from this conversation. Oh, it was my little brother. I was like, I'm disengaging from this conversation because I don't want to hear what this person is doing or whatever. Yep. And then I change the subject or walk away, right? It is our prerogative to live the best life that we can. I'm not saying be like a total bee and like everyone don't come around me and I'm the queen. It is, if someone makes me not feel good about myself, I choose not to be around them or something or whatever it could be, or a specific show. Oh my gosh, like with shows on Netflix or whatever. If it has too much violence, if it has anything to do with like I used to watch scary movies, all this stuff, and I've just set boundaries. Like I can't sleep at night and I get anxiety and stuff because of my kids. And I'm like, you know what? Now my husband watches certain shows that I just don't watch anymore with him. Which he's fine. He can watch it, whatever, and be fine. I am not like that. Nope. I internalize things. So just like, but as far as balance also is like, you got to, for me, I have to have goals in life. I have to set realistic goals and work hard to get to those. Like with my book, I had to have goals to finish it and promote it, and go to conferences and do whatever. So
that is so awesome. And I think, I just love so much of what you hit on while you were talking and sharing your story. And I think a lot of what you have done to be successful, like you said in the beginning, God had a plan for you. And, so going to, 28-day treatment, going to 12-step meetings, there are some people, they don't want to heal until they're ready to heal. They don't want to stop until they have to stop. And not everything is going to work for everybody right away. And I just really appreciate like your candor and being honest about that, because I feel like there's a stigma that you have to get it right away. And that could be further from the, you hate to see people go outside and pass away. We do. We hate that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like shaming people for not getting it right away or talking bad about someone because they don't understand or they can't grasp it, that's just something that is really important to me. And I hate telling my sponsees, like, you might not get it right away, but we're going to try and help, and some have it. And it sucks. But I also believe then there's cases like you that just end up so beautiful and so powerful that it shows that there is capability to become more than just what you are, more than your drug, more than your bad habits, more than your past.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's how we empower everyone, whether it's any human, doesn't matter, but for me, it's really, I try to focus on moms and really try to empower them to forgive themselves in so many things, whether we pop up on our kid or, I learned something the other day. It's not called self-care. It's called soul care,
Ooh,
and
like
just
that.
really focusing on the good in the world. And there's going to be ugly and you're going to pop off and you're going to want to strangle people or flick them off or whatever, I mean, I'm not, I can come out of my shell pretty quickly depending on the situation, but it's always how should I react, and how can I show I'm a very authentic person. If you get to know me more or read my book, whatever, follow me on social media, but I'm very authentic. And it's really important to be so. I wish everyone was a little bit more authentic and honest and, spread peace and love in the world. I think this world would be changing so many aspects, not just the addiction recovery field. So
yeah, my husband tells me all the time, he's like, babe, you don't have to be so open about everything. I'm like, but I do, because
yeah.
I'm my authentic self. When I am, someone's going to see it, someone's going to benefit from it. And the only thing that's off limits for me, and which is completely fine out of respect for my marriage, is I don't talk specifically about my spouse. I will talk about struggles I'm having. But outside of that, like if I'm not transparent about how I'm feeling, what's going on, what's happening in my life, I'm not only doing a disservice to myself because I'm keeping all that in, I'm doing a service to the people that I'm trying to help, because there are so many times when I haven't shared anything and then I will, and someone will be like, oh my God, I thought I was alone in that. And that's just transparency, and vulnerability is so beautiful. So I'm really excited to read your book, because you're just like me. You're just like, yep, this is me. This is who I am. Fuck it. Like, if you don't like it, too bad.
Yeah. And it's also like for the professionalism too, it's like, I know how to be authentic and rooted in my authenticity, but be professional, but I also can say fuck a lot, and it's just, I don't know. I truly believe anything can happen any day. I want to leave this world a better place, and I want to leave this world a better person, a better human. So why not? What else do I have to do?
Exactly. Well, give us the book is called Scattered Pink, and you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on barnesandnoble.com, and Chop Suey Books, who is local to you and I here in the Richmond area. They have it, and they are in Carytown, which is one of my absolute favorite places. And what is your social media handle so people can find you and follow you?
Sure. Insta is actually Diary of a Woman in Recovery, and Facebook is Honesty Liller, and TikTok, I'm now on TikTok. Yay! I'm trying to figure this whole thing out. Girl, I'm 42 years old. I'm like, it was overwhelming, so I stopped for a while, but now I think I'm getting the hang of it. It's pretty fun and cool. I just did one right before I popped on here. So TikTok is Honesty Liller. So yeah, that's it. But yeah, and Scattered Pink is the book. And thank you for having me. This was a great conversation. Me and you, we need to go to coffee or do something.
I am totally in. I'm totally excited. And there's a group of girls on Sober in Richmond that actually was really funny, because we wanted to go grab some Mexican food. And the meeting place, the one place, was in Chester, and it's called Patron. And so we were all like,
this isn't a good omen. Yeah.
Dinner at a place called Patron. They have the best Mexican food, I swear to God. So
good. Yeah. Well, hit me if there's a link or a group for that. Message me that so I can check it out.
Yeah. And then you and I will definitely have coffee. I'll make my way to you. And it was really good talking to you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you later.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of a Sober Girls podcast. I hope that you heard something that resonated with you and that you can take with you for the next week until we meet again. You can find me on Instagram at a Sober Girls Pod. You can also follow me and friends at Sober City Movement on Instagram as well. If you live in the Richmond area, follow me at Sober in Richmond, where we plan local sober meetups. Or if you're just traveling and looking for a friend in the area, there's one of us in almost every city across the continent. Struggling and need help? Just remember that you are not alone. You can reach out to me and any of my friends on Instagram, send us a message. Or if you are in immediate need of help, please search out your sponsor, the closest sober friend, or go online to aa.org to find a meeting that you can attend. There are also Zoom meetings, which you can find on aa.org as well. Have a safe week, and until next time, fam, be well.